Mr. Naseer, first of all, thank you for inviting us to your submarine platform here. It's absolutely beautiful. We also want to talk about the churn that was happening in the Maldives. Can you tell us a little bit more about your background? Why did you leave President Yamin's administration as Home Minister?
To start with, I was a member of PPM. I was part of the group that formed PPM. It was myself, Gayoom, and Yamin. We are the founders, actually. So in 2013, I competed Yamin for the presidential ticket. And then we had a primary, and President Gayoom and his entire family backed Yamin, and then I lost the primary race, and then later I was kicked out of the party. And then, but in spite of that, in 2013 election, I supported Yamin in the second round, and then I accepted his offer to become the Home Minister. So I was in that portfolio for over 2.5 years. Yeah, I left the government because the government was going in the wrong direction.
What do you mean by that?
Because the Yamin was going after the politicians, his competitors. He was going after, and he was inviting corrupt leaders. Corrupt
family also. You were saying founding father President Gayoom
was also imprisoned. From that incident only, you can say how hard he was going after people. In fact, I was the first person to go after. When I was the Home Minister, even the court issued an order to arrest me when I was the Home Minister. So all these things, combined, after 2.5 years, I decided that I cannot take it any longer. So I left the government.
Those 2.5 years, as it was progressing, were you warning President Yamin?
Several times. I had several private conversations with him, and he very clearly knows that I am not his friend, but I am his competitor. When I started my work with him, I told him, I'm your competitor, but I'm not your enemy, and I'm not your friend also. So I had a very open, candid conversation with him, several occasions. And then on several occasions, I warned him, I told him not to take that direction. Even when he was having a big quarrel with Gayoom, I told him not to do that. When he was having a big quarrel with Qasim, I told him not to do that. So I had the opportunity to warn him several times. I did that.
But you are still, even though you warned him and you're not with the PPM or with the former President Yamin now, you're not with the opposition either. You have a lot of issues with them.
No, I have a lot of issues with the opposition. I'm not with the opposition at all. I'm not with Yamin as well. The problem with opposition is they are also corrupt. When MDP was in government from 2008 to 2012, they were quite corrupt. They were the people who started pumping money into parliament and buy votes. They are the people who did that. Now today, when they form this particular coalition government, if you look at the cabinet, the same corrupt people are there. This is what they have been telling the people. That they should eradicate corruption, but they have started on the wrong foot now. When you look at the cabinet, everyone knows very clearly who is there, what they have done, how much they have earned illegally.
So you feel that this coalition will not be able to keep together? It won't be a coalition?
I don't think so. It's just a forced marriage, actually. It's a forced marriage. They were compelled to marry because of Yamin's action. And after the parliamentary election, I'm 100% sure they will split.
The MDP thinks that they will get a majority, so they'll be even more stronger. You don't think that will happen?
I think it will happen. I think it will happen because the opposition is quite weak. Yamin has not been able to galvanize the other side, and then no one has so far come out to galvanize. Many people have invited me to do that, but so far I am just considering that. So no one has come out to galvanize and regroup the opposition. So with that in mind, I think MDP will take a majority in the parliament.
Mr. Naseer, you have served in administration as the Home Minister. You have seen politics over so many years and decades. What is your view of Indian foreign policy, in the Maldives especially?
They have been very kind to us. They are the best partner for us, and then they have helped us in whatever way we have asked them to help. So their foreign policy until 2008, I have seen as very good and very generous, especially
post 2008.
Post 2008, yes. After that, what happened is when Nasheed became the president, he jumped into their pockets. He jumped into their pockets and invited Indian troops to Maldives. Now we have Indian boots on our soil.
You're talking
That's
about the people who are manning the helicopters.
That's what I'm talking about.
Not really boots, they're just maintenance and pilots maybe.
No, that's the name they have given actually.
Okay.
It's boots on our ground actually. If Maldivians can operate A380 aircrafts, Maldivians can fly any aeroplane, Maldivians can dive in submarines, why Maldivians can't fly a helicopter? So if India is really gifting this particular helicopter to us, they should hand it over to us. We will fly it. We will do the maintenance. We will do all that. So it's in 2008 that our relationship has started souring.
If I can understand you correctly, you're saying that India is using the helicopters to maintain a military presence, even though the official position is that those people are needed for the maintenance and flying. You are saying, why don't you just train our Maldivian pilots to fly those helicopters or any other, maybe the Dorniers that will come later? Is that what you're trying to say? You're saying India is specifically not doing that so as to maintain this presence?
Exactly. This is a Trojan horse. This is a Trojan horse of the 21st century. And then even in the agreement that we have with the Indian government, they are supposed to train our pilots. In 1 year they are supposed to train, which they did not do. Now they are maintaining their presence, their military presence in Addo, which is a very serious concern for all the Maldivians. And I am sure the current status quo will not remain like that.
Mr. Naseer, you're saying you think the status quo will not be maintained. What do you mean by that?
The number one, that the people have realized that this is a military base that India is building here. And when former President Yamin clearly asked the Indian troops to leave, they did not. They refused to do that. So that is where the problem has come now. When a legitimate government asks them to leave, they should leave. So that is a red line that they have crossed. So that's why I'm saying, people have suddenly realized that this is not a gift, that this is an intervention. We have boots on the ground, and then they are not going to leave. So now the problem is going to start.
The government says 164 Maldivian lives have been saved because of these helicopters. They're not so much into military operations as such, they're into search and rescue operations. But you are continuing to insist that this is the first step, you think, towards more Indian equipment, troops here?
Absolutely, absolutely. These 164 lives could have been saved by Maldivian pilots easily. Any pilot could do that. So if this helicopter is a gift to us, they must give it to us. They must give it to us. It's very clear, They must not make any excuses. They must give the helicopter to our people. Our military will fly it. We will do the maintenance, and we will do everything. So there is no role of Indian Army to remain here.
So was that the position that President Yamin was taking? Because it was viewed in New Delhi as a tilt towards China, and that he was selling off islands, he was letting the PLA Navy possibly come in there and ultimately give China a port of call in the Maldives.
That's the problem of Yamin actually. He tilted too much towards China. He forgot that we are in the Indian Ocean. We have to protect the Indian interest in this ocean. We must not invite any party that is a threat to India to Maldives, especially to use any island or anything. So that's the strategic mistake Yamin has done. No politician would ever do that actually, When I was in the government, I warned Yamin not to do that because this is the Indian Ocean actually. And India is a superpower here. And we should not invite any party that India sees as a threat, whether it's China or whether it's Pakistan or anyone.
In your view, how would the Maldives, in its own interest, balance both China and India's interests and yet gain the most from both of them without having military bases?
Absolutely. We should not have a military base of any country actually, whether it's India or China or any country. We should not have no boots on the ground, Indian or Chinese or anybody actually. all the other cooperation should be there. We should have more military cooperation, naval cooperation with India, and economic cooperation with China. This is the line that we should not cross. There should not be any military cooperation with China or any other country other than India, because India is the superpower here. They are the closest neighbor here. They are a superpower here. We should respect that, and we must not allow our waters to be used by any other country, who India might see as a threat.
Again, when you're talking about China and economic development, India is also progressing very fast.
Yes.
How President Yamin has initiated so-called developmental projects. The Sinemalan bridge itself came up so fast. GMR, the Indian company, was chucked out of the airport reconstruction. China was coming in. There are reports of leases being given at throwaway prices of islands and atolls. You've seen what has happened with China in other countries, in Sri Lanka, in Pakistan, even Southeast Asia now is wary of the Chinese money. How worried are you about what President Yamin's administration did in terms of debt that you have with China?
We have accumulated too much of debt at the moment. We have accumulated, and Yamin is, I would say, short-sighted in getting so much loans from Chinese. Let alone be China, any other country. You should not expose so much to any country. If you expose yourself so much to any country, they can dominate you always. They can dominate you. So what Yamin has done is he has tilted our foreign policy so much towards China, which is a huge mistake. We should not have done that. Of course, we should have very good economic cooperation with China, Saudi Arabia, Pakistan, or any other country. But we should not forget that India is the most important friend in this region.
Mr. Naseer, what are your plans for the next 5 years? You're saying that the coalition won't last. You're still predicting the NDP might get a majority in parliament. Politically, how do you see your future?
Oh, I see a very bright future, because at the moment opposition is leaderless. There's no leader in the opposition, And then in 2008, it was me who regrouped the opposition, and then created PPM. So I have the knowledge, I have the support base, and people know me, know my background. So I think very soon you will see me galvanizing and regrouping the opposition. I'll be in the opposition, I will lead the opposition, and then I will run in 2023 against whoever comes from MDP.
Mr. Naseer, again, thank you so much for inviting us here. Thank you so much for your time as well. And of course, as you're saying, it's very important in any democracy to have opposition to the government, no matter who it is. Thank you again.
Thanks so much.
Thanks.
Thanks for having me.